Today we're going to look at a couple of visualization tools, the first of which is going to be a process visualization tool, and the others are going to be package dependency visualizers. Now, obviously the process one is going to be distro independent, but for the package ones, they are built with Arch Linux in mind, so keep in mind that if you're not on Arch or an Arch-based distro, they may not work. Some of them do have extra support built in for other distros as well, but some don't. So I'll mention those when we actually get to them. Now, the first one we're going to look at is PScircle, which is a process visualizer. Now, I would say this one is not the most complete, but I guess the most customizable. You can make it look pretty much however you want it to look. Now, obviously, within reason. This image right here basically explains how all of the options work. So you can change things like the link width, the link convexity, which I guess is how much the link actually bends. You have things like the output width, the output height, and a bunch of other cool stuff in here as well. You can move around this little thing down the bottom here, which will show you how much CPU usage and how much memory you're using as well. So let's have a look at basically how it works. So first up, you're going to want to install it, and it is available in the AUR if you're on Arch Linux, and on Gen 2 you can use an e-build for it that is available as well. If you're on Debian or anything else like that, you'll have to go and manually install it. But luckily for you, on Debian, it's got basically a bit of command here to show you how to install it on there. If you're on anything else though, then just work out how to install it on that distro. So first up, let's actually install it. So yay-s PScircle, PScircle if we can spell it, -git. Now, I've already got this installed, so I'm just going to quit out of this, and let's just have a look at how it actually works. Now, the basic usage for it is just running the command, but there's a problem with that. By default, when you just run the command, it will try to output the image to the X11 root window, which for some things is your wallpaper, for others isn't. The same is true for something like GNOME as well. GNOME will do it through its own fancy way, which breaks other stuff. Same with KDE, like XFC I think also does it as well. So for those, you have to use a special option. I believe that is the -D option, or I might be thinking of a different one. No, I'm thinking of a later program. So this one, what you're going to want to do if you're using something like GNOME, or if you're like me and you set your wallpaper with nitrogen, is run PScircle with the -- output option. So if we just put this into path.png, obviously you can call the image whatever you want to call it. We're just going to call it path.png though. So if we just open this one up in SXIV, just doesn't matter what your image previewer is, I like SXIV. Now, as you can see in here, we've got things like OBS down the bottom here. So we can see this actually is the current one we're using, otherwise OBS wouldn't be here. I don't just leave OBS open all of the time, that would be weird. We've also got things like systemd in here, and then systemd will branch off into bash, and then that'll branch off into Brave, and then Brave will branch off into more Brave, and Brave will branch off into even more Brave. Web browsers like to start up a lot of processes. Same with things like Discord Canary. Because Discord Canary is an Electron app, that'll start up Discord Canary, and then Discord Canary will start up more Discord Canaries. As you can see, it just likes to start up tons of processes, even though I don't know if it needs them. Probably does. I don't know, I haven't looked at the actual source code for Discord Canary because it's a proprietary piece of software. Now, a common theme for this video is a lot of these tools don't really have a productive use. The reason why they exist basically is to set a cool looking wallpaper, with the exception of one. pacvis, which we're going to look at in just a bit, is actually really useful, but the other ones here are basically just for setting a cool looking wallpaper. So I did mention also the options that are available, so let's just have a look at those. Now, PScircle doesn't have a man page, which is slightly annoying, but it does have a pretty useful help page, so we can have a look at that one. Now, I would recommend piping it into less, or just some sort of pager, because it is really long, and there is tons and tons of stuff you can set in here, so I'm not even going to bother going through all of this. As you can see, pretty much every single element of the actual graph is customizable. So if you want to move around like the memory list or the CPU list, or you want to rotate the tree, or you want to do a bunch of cool stuff like that, all of that is available to you, and there are a couple of examples on the actual GitLab page. So that's the default one there, but you've got the tree on the left, and it'll show you the actual source code for that. Or we've got things like different colors and different fonts, or we've got a background image. They could have picked a better background image, but I guess it's still a background image. Or you can do something like have the tree at the bottom. The other thing you could do is you could I guess, rotate the tree so it sits in, I guess, the bottom left corner of your wallpaper. I don't know why you would do that, but I guess you could. Now, if the graph doesn't fit to your screen, it will show you how to fix this in here. By default, the resolution is set to 3200 by 1800. I'm not sure why that's the resolution they picked, but that's the resolution they picked. And if you're interested in how it actually works, there is a bit of a description of how it does it in here as well. So feel free to come and check that out. Now let's move on to the next tool. So the next tool we have is PackWall. This one is a really basic looking one. I guess it's complex looking, but what it does is pretty basic. Pretty much what it's going to do is take all of your package installs and then just draw lines between them where they're dependent on each other, basically. If you want to understand how it does that, this will show you basically how it chooses the colors for them, and then this will show you, I guess, how it draws the lines. It's a dependency graph, so it's pretty straightforward how it actually works. There's nothing too complicated about that. Now, if you're on Arch Linux, there is a AUR package for it, and there also is void support, sort of. It's sort of experimental. So you can technically use it on void. I don't know how well it's going to work. I haven't tried it on void, but there is technically void support. Now, the other cool thing you can do with this one, so obviously this one will try to set a wallpaper as well. This one does fair and hset_root. I like to just output into a picture though, and then just set it the way I want to set it. If you're using a desktop environment, there is desktop environment integration with like KDE, GNOME, etc. Because GNOME, you can't use fair or hset_root to set your wallpaper for whatever reason. I don't know why it's set up like that, but basically you have to do it in the special way. And there is also pacwall integration as well. So if you like your system theme being based on your wallpaper, then that is something else you can do here as well. As for the options are pretty terribly explained. So you're kind of going to have to guess through what they do. I guess you can sort of understand them, but it's nowhere near as well described as something like PScircle, for example. Now, the one thing I wanted to mention here was this right here, the Pacman hook. So if you want to make it so your wallpaper is always an up-to-date dependency graph of your packages, what you can do is use the Pacman hook and make it so whenever you install a new package, which might be caused by an update or could be by you explicitly going and actually installing something, it will change your wallpaper to an updated version of the pacwall image. Now, the problem with this, and I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you really like that Reddit karma, is because this is really slow, especially if you're on slower hardware. I'm probably fine on my system. It only takes maybe like 30 seconds to a minute to actually generate the graph. But if you're on something like an older ThinkPad and you have a bunch of dependencies, it could take a considerable amount of time. So keep in mind that if you do want to do that, you are accepting a performance hit every time you try to install something, which maybe is fine for you, maybe isn't. For me, I don't really think there's any point to it. Plus, I'm never using it as my wallpaper anyway, so yeah, I don't really think there's much of a point to it. Now, if you're installing from the AUR, it won't automatically download the Pacman hook for obvious reasons because, as I said, it could be really annoying. If you do want the Pacman hook though, there is an example on the actual GitHub page, so feel free to come and download this and look at how it works. Pretty much you just have to copy all of this in, but you might want to actually change some of the options that are available for pacwall. So let's actually have a look at how this one works. Now, obviously, you can install this one from the AUR as well. Basically, you can use yay-s pacwall, and you can download it like that. So let's just run pacwall and see what it's going to do. Now, I believe this one doesn't have a man page either, which is also annoying, but yeah, you can just use the help page for it. So, as I said, it's not the most useful help page. There should be a description for how some of these options work. I guess some of them are pretty, well described by their names, but I'm not sure what this one's supposed to do. So let's actually test this one out. Now, I'm going to run it with the -i option because I don't want it to try to set my wallpaper, plus I don't have the dependencies to do that. So we're going to run that with pacwall-i. Now, it'll take a little bit of time to do this. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. If I have to cut it, then I'll cut it. So let's have a look at the actual output for that then. That is saved to the pacwall.png image. Pacwall.png. As you can see, it looks fairly similar to what is available on the actual GitHub page here, but I have considerably more packages installed, so my graph is just an absolute mess to look at. If you don't like the background color, as you saw, you can very easily change that with the -B option. So we're going to do that right now. So if we do PackWall, we'll take this one here, -B. I think the color I used before was this, 2D, 2D, 2D. Give that another second to generate, and I'll cut back to when it's actually done. And the result of that will look a little something like this. I prefer this look. I'm not a big fan of the teal. Is that teal? I'm going to say it's teal. I prefer like a dark grey color. I think this looks a little bit better. It makes everything just pop a little bit more. And yeah, it's a pretty neat looking tool. And as you can see, I have some programs over here that actually have no dependencies whatsoever. But because of the way this tool is set up, there's no way to actually see what those programs are. But the next one, on the other hand, actually is a pretty useful tool. So this one is called pacvis, and this isn't just a wallpaper setter. This one actually does have a productive use. Basically what it's going to do is create a graph of all your dependencies, and then you're actually able to navigate through them in your web browser. This one, as with the others, is available in the AUR, so you can download that with Yowit, or you can download it with Yay, like you'd be using now. I don't know why so many programs still mention Yowit. So Yay-S pacvis-git. Now, as with the other ones, I already have this installed, so I'm just going to leave that now. If we just run pacvis in the terminal, it's not really going to do much. So what we have to do is actually open up our web browser, and then it's going to start generating stuff, and this is going to take a little bit of time. Now that it's finished generating, you can actually see what it does. This view right here isn't the most useful though. What you're going to want to do is actually zoom in a bit, and let's just click on any node in here. Let's click on the Linux firmware node, and as you can see, it's actually required by nothing, which is interesting, but it has a line going down all the way to, what is this? To Linux. So this is the Linux kernel. Let's see what's actually dependent upon the Linux kernel. So VirtualBox host modules Arch, that is actually directly dependent on the Linux kernel for Arch Linux. Let's pick something a little bit more interesting though. Let's click on the GCC libs. As you can see, this actually has a ton of things that are dependent on it, and it's only dependent on one program. It's dependent on glibc. So let's see what glibc is connected to. This one, the one thing I don't like about this is it zooms in a bit too far when you do click on something, so it makes it a bit harder to see what else is going on. Now, as you can see, this has a bunch of connections all around. Now, the use of something like this is seeing what is actually connected to what. There are other ways you can do this, but this is a nice visual way to see, okay, well, I have this package installed. What do I need to uninstall to get rid of it? Or what packages are just bringing in tons of dependencies that if I just got rid of one thing, I wouldn't need it. For example, this branch over here. So this is my GHC libs. This is the Glasgow Haskell compiler. Now, there's a very good reason this is here, and it's way off to the side, because there's only two things I have installed that are dependent on the Haskell compiler, and those are these two nodes down here. That is pandoc and pan.crossref. So if I got rid of those two, I could then actually get rid of Haskell. Now, I don't want to do that because I need pandoc on my system, but if I did want to get rid of it, you can actually see very visually here what you would need to get rid of this node up here. I did also notice one interesting thing off to the side. So way over here, where is it? This over here, I have no idea what this is. So this is, oh, it's themes for the Mate desktop. Why do I have this? Why is this installed? I don't know why I installed this. I guess I will go and uninstall it. I think those are some GTK themes that I was thinking of using at one point. Now, if you don't want to install this yourself, and you just want to have like a experiment around with it to see if it's something that's useful, the developer actually has made a web server that you can go and test it out on. So I will leave a link to this down below, so feel free to come and check this out. And it has fully loaded. So this is for, I think, an Arch-based server or something like that. And as you can see, it's considerably more lightweight than what I've got installed. So what is this one down here? This is Git Annex. I manage files with Git without checking out their contents into Git. That's cool, I've never heard of that one. And that has a bunch of dependencies like things such as Haskell memory. Oh, it's more Haskell stuff. Of course it's Haskell stuff. Somehow, it's always just like one program you have installed that pulls in every single possible Haskell dependency that could possibly exist. But anyway, that wasn't too important. The point I was mentioning here was if you want to test this out, there is a web server you can connect to and actually test it out. Now we have one more tool that I want to check out, and this one I wasn't originally planning to look at, but I guess it's a bit of an honorable mention. So this is pacgraph. This one's been out for 13, 14 years at this point, and as you can see, it's very basic looking compared to what we saw before. It's very similar to, what was it, pacwall, but this one actually says the names of things, so obviously it's going to be a bit more messy to look at, but maybe it's a bit more useful. Obviously, if you really want to look at how your dependencies are connected to each other and you want more than just a wallpaper setter, pacvis is probably the best tool to be doing that with. But if you do want to have these names in here for whatever reason, pacgraph is available for you to try out. Now the different thing about this one is actually available in the standard repos, so we can just get this one with pacman. So sudo pacman-s pacgraph. And I've already got it installed, so let's go and actually try it out. Now, basically the way it's going to work is if we just run pacgraph, what it's going to do is try to generate an SVG and try to generate a PNG. The PNG will only be generated if you have ImageMagick or Inkscape installed. There's a couple of other options you can use as well, but I would recommend just installing Inkscape or ImageMagick. You probably already have ImageMagick installed if you've messed around with scripts like this in the past before. Unlike the others, this one actually does have a man page, which is nice to see, but I guess the program has been out for 14 or so years, so it definitely does help out with that. Now this one you don't have much you can configure. It also won't automatically set your wallpaper, which is nice, because if you're trying to set your wallpaper, you probably want to, if you're doing it with GNOME especially, you want to do it in the way for your system. So it's nice that it doesn't try to force a specific way of setting a wallpaper. This one, there's not much you can configure. You can configure the colors for everything, so the background color, the link color, the top color, and the dependency color. And doing all of that, you actually can get a pretty cool look for it. This is an example of that. This is basically a dark theme. I say this looks pretty cool. Personally, I would make the links a little bit lighter, but yeah, it's pretty cool what it can do. I just realized I didn't show you the example we generated just before. So that'll be in a file called pacgraph.png. And as you can see, by default, the normal color is white, and the text size is also based on the size of the actual package. So the reason this is massive is because it's just way bigger than every other package I have installed. As you can see, things like LibreOffice, the Linux firmware, Go, Clang, things like this are also pretty big as well, but TextLive Fonts Extra is by far the largest one. If you are using any other distro besides Arch, there actually are modes that do support that. So I believe it's Debian, Red Hat, IPKG. I don't know what IPKG is, and also obviously Arch Linux. So I think that's pretty much everything for these tools. Now I know for things like PScircle and even things like PackWall and pacvis, I took a very surface level look at them. What I wanted to do today was just, I guess, show you that these tools exist. If you want to see an extra video on PScircle or pacvis, I am more than happy to do it. But what I wanted to do is just let you know these exist, and if you want to try them out for yourself, then you can go try them out for yourself. So I think that's pretty much everything for this video. If you think these tools were cool, if you think they're a waste of time, let me know your thoughts down below. But before I go, I want to thank my patrons. So a special thank you to Joachim, Nathan, Andrew, Peter D, Road, Tony, Donald, Larry, and Zilver. If you want to join the Patreon, there'll be a link to that down below, as well as my Amazon affiliate links where you can buy the gear using this channel, or anything else you want to get a small kickback for it. Also remember to go check out my podcast, that is Tech Over Tea, available on Library and YouTube for the video version, and also the audio version is just available wherever you listen to podcasts. Also remember to go subscribe to this channel on Library as well, and also on BitTube, and remember to smash the like button and leave me a comment down below, and remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below as well. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.